Tony Atlas and Ole Anderson. However, it has now been decreed that Tony Atlas has been reinstated. He is the Georgia heavyweight champion, but Ole Anderson has been suspended indefinitely from wrestling on television. He is not suspended from appearing or making an interview, but he is suspended from wrestling here on television. And right now, we'll be back with Tony in just a moment, but right now, here's an important word for me. And of course, as we said, Tony, Ole Anderson is suspended from wrestling on in competition here on television. However, he is not suspended from previously recorded or pre-recorded interviews. We have one right now that I think you should listen to.
It's amazing, you know, Tony Atlas, when he gets in there and starts scuffling around, everything is great as long as he's looking good. But as soon as he doesn't look too good, then everybody has to run in and try to help him to preserve his image. His image as a Mr. USA, as a Mr. Strongman, the man that could bench press 500 pounds, as an undefeated wrestler, as a man who is the #1 contender for the world's heavyweight title. Well, I told Tony Atlas and I told everybody else within hearing that there's no way that Tony Atlas is ever going to get the world championship belt. And if I get anything about it, he's not even going to get a chance at the world champion again. But right away, something's got to happen. He's got to have help from Dusty Rhodes, or he's got to have help from the people. Now they're going to bar us from the studio. Well, they're not barring us. They're only going to bar me because they're afraid that I'll beat Tony Atlas right here in front of everybody. Well, they better be afraid. Everybody better be afraid. Because on the 16th, nobody's going to stop me from coming to the Omni. Nobody is going to stop Harley Race. Every time Race gets into a match, he's got to worry about his belt. Except this time. This time, he doesn't have to worry about anything. He's got nothing to lose. No belt is on the line. All he has to do is be just like me, Ole Anderson. Just be tough and rugged and beat Atlas and Rhodes.
Well, this coming Friday night, we're going to find out. You and Dusty as tag team partners against Harley Race and this man, Ole Anderson.
Well, you know, Ole Anderson got out here and he said that ain't nobody going to stop him from coming to the Omni. Well, you let me tell you something, Ole Anderson. I wouldn't stop you from coming to Atlanta, Georgia. I wouldn't stop you from coming to Georgia. I wouldn't stop you from coming to the Omni because I want you there, because I can't beat you if you up in Minnesota or somewhere. If you think that you and Harley Race could beat me at Dusty Road, bring yourself on. That you might get some people to believe in how tough you is, but you got to prove it to me in the Omni, brother.
And, of course, that created even more problems, Tony.
Well, you know, Ole Anderson, he's the kind of person, he don't respect anything. He don't have no respect for his family. Anytime a man turn on his own brother, you know he ain't much respect to him. Ole Anderson seemed like he just wanted to stop me. He said, I don't have no business trying for the world's title. He said, I ain't got no business in professional wrestling. I ain't got no business in the ring. My can don't even belong in professional wrestling. I don't know what Ole Anderson is talking about when he get out there talking about my can. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just a wrestler just like everybody else out trying to make a living and support myself and do my best in that ring. But if Ole Anderson, anytime you want to fight, I fight him. If he want to wrestle, then I wrestle him. I don't care what he has to do. I do it against him as long as the man meet me head up. If Ole Anderson want to go out and because Ole Anderson, I'm going to tell you, I had gotten fed up with people getting in my way because I worked hard trying to go somewhere. People going to get in my way, talk about whooping me, putting me out of wrestling, going to do this and that to me. Ole Anderson, anytime you think you can do something else to me, you come on in the ring. And, brother, it ain't going to be like last time because I'm going to just go ahead and take you into the street. Now, I know you got more wrestling experience than I got, but Ole Anderson, I got more fighting ability than you got. And I got more ability to knock you out with this little finger than you got in your whole body. So, Ole Anderson, if you want to take it to the street, brother, you bring it on because I'll show you some stuff you can't learn in professional wrestling.
Well, obviously, of course, this sort of situation will not happen here on television because Ole Anderson is now indefinitely suspended. As you saw earlier, it was Ole Anderson who began the situation by coming out here and openly slapping Tony Atlas during this interview area. Well, later on, of course, a challenge was met. Ole
At 250 pounds, the Georgia heavyweight champion, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. His opponent entering the ring, the Russian assassin.
And so the Russian assassin and Tony Atlas going up against each other in this match. One fall with a 10-minute time limit. And Les Thornton, of course, the world junior heavyweight champion, still with me.
This should be a real draw because, you know, I've worked hard with Tony Atlas, and he really is by far the strongest man I've ever come across. I was on the bench press, doing some bench press with him. I'm pretty strong, but This man did 550 with no trouble when I was with him. So that goes a lot to say, you know, and with his wrestling ability, he's going to be a very formidable opponent. But there again, we got the Mad Russian, who I think by far is one of the best ones around today. As a look, Tony after a lovely takedown then went behind the Russian. But the Russian's coming out the proper way, you know.
They're into that ring robe now, and the referee will be forcing a break on this, and so...
I think Tony's got to keep up this Russian, otherwise this man can turn everything round, and he can beat you at any given time.
Into an inside cradle by Tony Atlas, but the Russian is able to move him out and escape from possible pinning combinations. It's interesting to note, Les, that this was a very special challenge. This man, who is unidentified, notified Georgia Championship Wrestling that he specifically wanted a match with Tony Atlas.
Well, all I got to say that this man must obviously know what he's doing, because nobody challenges Tony Atlas and gets away with it. He must think he can beat him. He's challenging him. He's going to go ahead and he's going to try and do it. And he's doing a good job of it right now.
Beautiful leapfrog into a flying drop kick by Tony Atlas into a full power slam, and it is a full slam rather, and it is Atlas back on him again, a front face lock now. Tony Atlas.
I think he's going to make a big mistake if he tries to outpower Tony, because there's nobody in the wrestling game today can do that. He's going to have to start doing something a little bit different than he's doing, otherwise Tony's going to outpower him and out-wrestle him.
Going for a single leg pickup at this point. Atlas keeping that head imprisoned, and of course it is the Russian now trying to get that leg picked up. If he can get a back leg trip out of this as well.
Really should stand up with him. He's got him on the hand like he can't reach to kick his far leg away. If I was in that ring now, I'd counter, I'd stand up and bring him up with me. But as I said, Tony stepped back into the ring and he saw what was happening and he's built the hold.
They're into those ring ropes now. The referee again calling for the break. Tony now has that one leg trapped in between the ring ropes, and the Russian very quickly driving the knee into those quadriceps femoris muscles of Tony Atlas, trying to take away 1 point of attack, 1 point of stability.
Obviously, the man knows what he's got to do. He wasn't overpowering him and he wasn't beating him with wrestling. So he's got to go back to the old roughhouse tactic, which obviously he must be quite good at.
Atlas still into those ropes, and the Russian still pressing his advantage. And
I don't know who this Russian is, but this Russian assassin, that he knows what he's doing and he's a very mean man. I'd love to know who he is.
Well, I would too, as a matter of fact, because it was rather unusual that the man specified that he would not wrestle anybody else other than Tony Atlas. And now, looks like he's trying to set for a figure four. Yes, couldn't get it. Now
well, you see, he couldn't beat Tony with his wrestling, and he couldn't beat him with his strength. So he pounded him down with the old usual roughhouse tactics, then went for a leg hold. So he thought about how he's going to do this thing, and he's going ahead and doing it.
Well, he's got the figure four. He does not have it clamped in, however. He does not have it cinched down. And
Tony's got too much power to give up in any case. And he's too strong. I think he'll either outpower him or pull himself to the ropes, which I would to get out of these circumstances.
Well, they didn't get that figure four locked in properly, and of course that's given Tony Atlas, because once that figure four is locked in, as you well know, once it's locked in, it's over.
Usually when a man gets a figure four, it's a finish. We call it a finish in the game, as you know, and then when it goes for it, I just said, like, it's a submission.
And it is Atlas rolling away from it. Finally, the hold is broken. The Russian did not have it firmly cinched in. Consequently, Atlas was able to break free. However, how much damage has been done to Tony Atlas now?
Well, this Russian knows what he's doing. He's a good wrestler. He's going after them legs, even though he's a leader of what he's doing. This is his tactic, so he has to beat Tony Atlas, but he's going to do it.
Russian outside the ring now. Additional punishment on those femoris muscles of Tony Atlas, and Atlas in trouble here.
Well, if he's not careful, he's going to get counted outside the ring, this man. In any case, he could have been disqualified for those kind of tactics, what he did.
Well, it appears to me that he is not as interested now at this point in a pinfall as he is in trying to incur some injury to Tony.
He's got one thing on his mind, to beat Tony Atlas. That's what he did. He challenged him, he came here, he said he was going to beat him, and he didn't care how he's going to do it. He's going to go ahead and try and beat him. But right now, Tony's making he's got his senses together, making a big comeback, and Tony can throw mean punches, you can see.
And it is Atlas. Atlas after the mask.
Atlas after the mask of this Russian. And
He's got to be careful here. He's going to get himself disqualified if he's not careful. You can't throw that referee around that ring.
And it is Atlas now unleashing all stops. The Russian still after that leg, and Tony Atlas unleashing everything he's got against the Russian.
Well, now it's just pushing into a mud brawl. No one cares. Not even the referee's got anything to do with it now. Tony's just going berserk. This Russian is after the mask, so, you know, it's just a charade now.
It is Tony Atlas now trying desperately to get that mask off. Obviously, at this point in time, he wants to know the identity of this man who has obviously been trying to deliberately injure him. He's got that mask. It's Smirnoff.
Yeah, would you believe it? That surprised me. That's pretty Smirnoff, and I never would have believed it.
Alexis Smirnoff, and that mask has been removed. And that is most unusual indeed. But Smirnoff is the man who's come in after Tony Atlas and specifically said that he would wrestle nobody else but Tony Atlas, but he called himself the Russian Assassin. And now, up here, 6 slugfest going on. It is all over, and they're going to have to separate them once again. They're going to have to separate them here. And it was obvious here that Smirnoff had more in mind than just trying to win a match. It was obvious here that he had something else in mind, and that was to injure or re-injure if he could.
For one reason, as you say. This Smirnoff only came in for one reason. That's to mean Tony. And for me, someone's put him up to do that.
That's an interesting observation. Let me see if I can't get Tony Atlas and talk to him for just a moment. Well, you could hear the comments, "We're going to get you. We're going to get you." You can hear him continuing to say, "We're going to get you." So obviously, this man Smirnoff is part of some form of conspiracy or another.
What kind of message is this? Now here, last week Ole Anderson come out here. Somebody ain't got no business, nothing. I ain't got no business. You ain't gonna do nothing. You had your chance, and you can get another chance. You, Ole Anderson, Harley Race, all y'all get a chance. You think you're gonna do something to me? Let him go.
Okay, now, sir, no, Tony, please, let's not have any more. Don't risk a suspension, Tony. We'll be back. As soon as we get order restored, we'll be right back. We'll be back in just a moment.
Boys, beautiful. You guys get better every time. And every time that I come out here, I look better. And women get the feeling.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting to note that the last week, here on Georgia Championship Wrestling, we had a previously recorded profile with Robert Fuller regarding his past, his career, his heritage. And, of course, one of the things that Robert Fuller talked about was the fact that his proud...
That is something. What you get, just spit it out, baby. You're talking about a Lincoln Continental. Something that I want, something that they want, because it is yours. And the privilege of hurting your pride.
All right, well, I'll tell you what's going to happen here.
What's going to happen here?
They saw the previously recorded profile. They challenged Robert Fuller to put his Lincoln Continental up against the Georgia Tag Team belt. Well, our Georgia
Does it have cruise control?
I don't know. The Georgia Championship Wrestling film crew went on location this past week, talked to Robert Fuller and to Ted DiBiase, and I think you're going to find this very, very interesting. So let's switch now to that.
What's this? Ted and I have been asked by the promotion of Georgia Championship Wrestling and Mr. Paul Jones to take just a minute of your time to discuss a bizarre challenge that took place just 1 week ago. A situation took place in which I was out on a profile, and I talked about some of the prizes that I was lucky enough to win, and Ted too, and we won the $30,000 in the 2-ring Triple Chance Battle Royal. And then another prize that I won was this Continental car, this beautiful Continental that I won in Dothan, Alabama. This certainly is a proud moment for me, as you might think, because any time you can take a person into your trophy case and show them something that you won, it's a proud moment. And this right here is certainly the proudest thing that I've ever been able to achieve in all of my life, to win a car in a tournament like that.
Ted asked me a question I'd like to explain before we get into anything else. He said, you know, if you're putting up the car, we're both in this thing together. What am I putting up? And that was a good question in one angle. In another, maybe not so good, because had the Freebirds had known what they could do to get this match with us, they probably could have gotten our right arms. They could have took our homes or took both of our cars or took anything away from us. Is that right, Ted?
Well, it's certainly true, Robert. You know, I think that the people have got to realize that there's a lot more at stake here than the national tag team titles. There's a lot of pride involved. You know, it doesn't make me feel good or proud to have to be seen on national television looking the way that I do right now, but I think that it's good in the fact that the people should see what I look like right now, because this injury, I suffered a very severe ear injury at the hands of not one or two, but all three of the Freebirds in another match that the people did not see, and it's very important for them to know that the seriousness of the situation, we're putting everything on the line. It's just like Robert said, if the Freebirds had thought about it or realized it, you know, we're in this thing together, and I would have put up my car with his car. I'd have put up, you know, any amount of money to get these guys back in the ring, because, you know, Robert and I come from wrestling families. We come from a wrestling background. We were raised in professional wrestling. It's put a roof over our head and clothes on our back for as long as we can remember, and we feel like there's an awful lot of pride at stake here. You know, we're wrestlers, we're men, and we feel like that there's no place in professional wrestling for people like the Freebirds. I think that they downgrade professional wrestling, and there's no place for them.
Well, I agree with that, and you know, I go along with saying, and this is the thing that tops it all off, the reason we could put all of this up, the reason this car can be put up, the reason that Ted would have put his up, the reason that all of this is happening is that we want those titles. And that means so much to us. The pride that's involved in being Georgia Tag Team Championships, you know, it's a pride that just, well, you can't get down into really how heavy the thing really is. That it's Ted's father's involved, my father's involved, our families, that we didn't come up with a silver spoon. It was tough for us. We came along, and now it's tough to get this shot, and that goes along with everything we've done since we've been in professional wrestling. It's a tough game, and we're going to go right to the end of it. This car is up, and that's a small point where I'm concerned. We're going to win them.
Another point, Robert, too, is that we would never make or accept a challenge like this if we had any doubt in our mind whether we could win it or not. Now, this match is a no disqualification match, and that suits us just fine, because when you deal with people like the Freebirds, you can't enter that ring and give the guy a break, because you know he's not going to give you one. It's obvious by looking at this thing on my head that they didn't give me a break. And the only way you deal with a snake or compete with a snake is you get down on your belly and you crawl on the ground just like them, and you fight them in their kind of a deal. And I'll tell you, the way we were raised, if it comes to fighting, it comes to brawling and kicking and punching and gouging, we can get down with the best of them.
Exactly, and that's what we plan to do. We just want you people to know right now that this is not a silly thing that we've come up with in our minds to put this car up or to put anything up. We want to be Georgia champions worse than anything else in this world, and we maintain we're going to be. Let's do a little riding, Ted.
Okay.
Listen, just one closing point on this thing. We plan to put this car up. We plan to come out the champions. That's the only way it can go. Right now, we're going to do a little sporting around and find out just how it's going to be, wear those belts around. You know something? That just touched my heart so much. You know, people are talking about things need to be changed, things need to be rectified. Well, let me tell you something, baby. We didn't have no daddy to help us get where we got in wrestling. And I take pride. You talk about pride. I take a lot of pride in touring this country as a national champion. When I walk the streets, I am a national champion, and they are too.
Well, Friday the 16th.
Well, Friday the 16th. There's a lot of things on my mind. And Athens, Georgia has national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs, and the Freebirds are coming. And Chattanooga's coming. But the main thing is the 16th. Because on the 16th, it's insignificant about your car.
what I want more than anything is your pride and your mind. You sleep on it, baby, because we're going to take your car, and we're going to drive your car, and we're going to take your pride. If you got dreams, we'll take that too.
This is a title match for the national TV title. One fall with a special 15-minute time limit. Introducing first from Boston, Massachusetts, weighing in at 225 pounds, the national TV champion, Kevin Sullivan. His opponent, the challenger from Tampa, Florida, weighing in at 229 pounds, Steve Keirn.
Steve Keirn trying to regain the National Television Championship. Keirn in the black trunks, and once again, I've asked the World Junior Heavyweight Champion Les Thornton to join me to lend his comments, and I'm sure he's familiar with what happened regarding this title. And it has caused a severe chasm in the friendship that used to exist between Sullivan and Keirn.
Well, as I said, God, I don't know a lot about what's been happening between these two men. All I know that Sullivan is now the holder of the TV title. But when I look at these two men, Sullivan shaved himself down to the weight limit. I know we're about 215 or so, but Keirn looks a little bit big for the junior heavyweight now. I don't know. He's got to be 6'2", and he looks quite heavy, so I don't really know if he can go with the junior heavyweight now. But as you say, I don't know a lot about what happened in this match, but it seems to me it's going to be a very scientific wrestling match, unless Sullivan has a little tendency to step over the line sometimes.
He does indeed, and Keirn out there openly agitating just a moment ago. Some open-handed slaps across the face of Kevin Sullivan. Sullivan caught in that head scissors, momentarily caught again in that head scissors as he escaped. And so Steve Keirn concentrating on...
Well, you've got two of the best heavyweights in the country right there. You know, you have this part of the country now, you've got three. You've got Steve Hull, Sullivan, and Keirn. And obviously we have down in Florida area, we have Graham and the Japanese boy. And there's 10 in the country now, and these are three of the best right here now. So we expect a terrific tussle.
Beautiful fireman carry that time, and Sullivan on the canvas. Keirn overhooks the head.
He's going for a front face lock and missed it, that was all. Sullivan shot his arm, and he shoved the hold off, that was all. He's gone back to it, but when you go over the arm like that, he leaves himself open to a double elbow to suplex. That's the only snag with that hold.
Full arm drag and twist once again by Steve Keirn. And it is Sullivan caught in a hammerlock now and a rear head takedown.
Twisting around. You see, once you got behind the man, there's lots you can do. He's got the hammerlock on. He's putting the knees now into the joint, which allows to do as a professional. And as I said, once you're behind the man, now he can think out the moves. We know, Gordon, what we're talking about when we've talked to each other about this and the way I feel about it. The hammerlock's on. He should now be thinking of different moves. If he can't win with the hammerlock, should be going for a leg or going back to the head. I can't understand the man that keeps switching from head to toe all the time.
Sullivan ducked away, caught with a forearm that time. And Keirn caught him with that forearm coming in into a lateral press. Sullivan powers out before the count of three.
Going back to the front face lock again, but as I said, he's missed the face lock and gone and took that loose arm. You see the left arm, he's left that loose. Now Sullivan's got the right idea now. He can double wrist lock this man and bridge back, and he can actually pin Keirn if he knows what he's doing, but he's not. He's pushing him to the ropes. He wasn't thinking, you see. He wasn't thinking.
And both men exploding now. And Sullivan in trouble now, backing way in. It is Sullivan outside the ropes.
There's a fiend going on here because they've gone away from the wrestling. Because as I said, they're both super wrestlers. They've gone away from the wrestling, and all they want to do now is just stomp and kick each other to death. As I said, you know something about this match I don't. I haven't been here all the time. But there's a fiend going on, and it looks as though they're going to stop it right here and now in this ring.
Well, they are indeed. Of course, it all boils back to when Steve Keirn was the national television champion, and Kevin Sullivan, in his eagerness and desire to win that title, Sundayed him. And Sullivan now has a pretty severe mat burn on that right elbow.
Well, he did it when he went out the ropes there, you see. Now, Sullivan was on the headlock on the floor there. He should have been thinking now how he can come up and counter that move, which I think he's going to do now, and he's going to go into the ropes. Oh, he went for the hip toss, and Keirn reversed it. Back to the headlock. Pretty good move. Keirn's using his brains now.
And so Keirn trying to step out front in this match. The National Television Championship on the line. It's a one-fall, 15-minute time limit. And the referee warning both men.
Something's been said and something's been done because they're both pulling hair, they're both punching. And as I said, like, they're both contenders for a heavyweight title or a junior heavyweight title. So I don't think there's really not a need for it, unless, as I say, they must dislike each other.
Well, they do indeed. They were at one time, I think, fairly close friends, but Sullivan caught him with an elbow coming off the ropes that time. Sullivan crashes down, but it was Keirn rolling away. And it is Keirn now with a hip lock takedown.
He got it all the time. He knew very well that if he missed with the elbow and he came back reverse elbow, if he missed, he could always come back to the headlock, which he did, took it over. Now, that's a good move for Sullivan there. If he switched over the right leg, over the ankle of Keirn, he can come right back on top and get the head out. But he's not thinking it was the same move.
And Keirn moving up, blocking that possibility.
That's right. That's what he's done. Keirn's a very clever wrestler. He's a fine wrestler and athlete. That's just what he's done. He stopped the move, he stopped the counter. There's that thing that Sullivan comes up with all the time. He cold cuts people. And there's no need for it because he's got a terrific ability. But he caught him blindside with a punch.
Did indeed. He sundied him, and Sullivan catches him again. Keirn is down. His head rolled momentarily. And it is Sullivan administering all the punishment that he can now. Keirn in trouble here.
Well, you know, when you're in a big square ring, you've got to be a big, tough man. That's what professional wrestlers are today. You've got to be able to dish it out and take it and also wrestle. They can both wrestle, they can both dish it out. They both want to win, so, you know.
It is Keirn in trouble again here now as Sullivan starts to try and dominate the situation.
He's put a chin lock on. He's going to come back with a back elbow onto him. I think he'd done better there if he'd face barred him across and turned him around and got on his back. But, as you say, like, Kevin Sullivan's got his own tactics. He knows what he's doing. He's a champion. So right now they're going his way, and it's winning the match for him.
Sullivan catching him again, Keirn firing back, and now once again the rule book's being thrown out as fists are being thrown back into a bear hug up against those ropes, and it's Sullivan catching him in the midsection.
Well, they're both getting very desperate there, throwing punches. One of them should have dropped down and took a leg or something there and stopped it because it was just nonplussed, just kicking and punching each other. Going back to that chin again. Well, he's got it now. Now you see the real proper tactic. He had the chin, he had the move, and he went with the hair. Now it's getting desperate. They're both kicking and punching now.
And again, this match, one fall, 15-minute time limit with the National Television Championship at stake.
This is no ordinary match, quite obviously, because they dislike each other intensely, and they're just kind of giving up wrestling, and they're just going for what they can get just to win the match. If they're not careful, they both get disqualified. That's the way it's going, because there's a feeling in the match. You can feel it. Even standing here, Gordon, you can feel there's something wrong in that.
Now Keirn having his problems trying to come out of it now, and Sullivan, that one came from the backyard, uncorked it all the way. Keirn fires.
Sorry, Gordon, he's playing his for it. When the match is getting away from Sullivan, he reverts back to that punching.
And it is Keirn now, a good forearm, another forearm to the side of the head that staggers Sullivan. And the National Television Champion trying to leave the ring, and Keirn brings him back in, rocks him with another forearm, Again, Sullivan tries to leave, and Keirn catches him. Keirn catches him with another good solid forearm. And it's Sullivan down. And Steve Keirn going after that National Television Championship. And he's got Sullivan, the National TV Champion, in trouble. Keirn moving extremely well. Batters him. Keirn caught him, another good forearm, and it's Sullivan back to the canvas, and Steve Keirn turning the tide in this situation.
Escaped the ring. 3 times he went from the ring. Next to the Bainbrush. No, he missed the Bainbrush and went for that shoulder hold. Shoulder clutch.
Coming up with that atomic knee drop, and Sullivan caught with that atomic knee drop, and it's...
It looks to me as though Sullivan deliberately tried to get his Keirn disqualified. To me, he threw himself over the top there. It looks as though it.
Well, now the referee, normally anytime a competitor goes over the top rope, that becomes an automatic disqualification. But a judgment call on the part of the referee, Keirn disqualified. Sullivan retains his title via disqualification, but a judgment call that, very frankly, I don't wish to take issue with the referee, but as I said, it was a judgment call, but a very questionable judgment call in my opinion.